Hey classmates, this is John Capel. I decided to do a bit of a video recording today as opposed to typing up, trying to expand my horizons a little bit. So in looking through the Hammond article, I want to throw out a few things. First, as I'm reading through this article, I am seeing a lot of things that resonate with, we have Anion, we have Fullen's, New Educational Change and Change Possibilities, we have, Delpit was earlier, this is Anion, and then The Global Achievement Gap by Wagner. And if you haven't read this one yet, this is a really great book because that's what we read for last year's orientation. But I saw a lot of things that resonated. I think Darling Hammond makes a really solid argument. There are some points where I feel like it's a bit of a stretch where she's connecting one thing to another, but it's not without justification and substantiation. I think we're seeing that across multiple authors. I just threw up a bunch of those books. Those are being affirmed in there, and they're connected pieces. And as I'm reading, I'm just seeing the themes resonate again and again. So I recognize, too, for me personally, that some of these things were tough to read because of my white male privilege and my educational background, which I'll talk about in a little bit. A couple things that I want to highlight a little bit first is I think one of the prominent themes that was discussed was that there's this huge focus on the advancing technology and how quickly things are changing in our global world, and that as an American educational system, we're not setting up our students, or in fact our teachers, to teach those students in beneficial ways. It's setting them up for success. The chapters discussed that there are positions that have not even been created yet that are going to be employment opportunities for students, and we're not getting them in a place where they're ready to do that based on the lack of critical thinking skills, which Wagner in The Global Achievement Gap really talks about the importance of employers wanting students or wanting employees that are coming out of high school and college settings who possess critical thinking skills where they can apply what they're learning across multiple boundaries. And Darling Hammond really accentuates that as well. I think one of the challenges is that Darling Hammond puts out there is, are we preparing our students to be ready with those critical thinking skills? The answer is no. What we're doing is rote education and just saying regurgitate back to us, let's teach to a test. And I think there are other countries, as the chapters illustrate, that there are countries that do that as well, but they're also supplementing those with hands-on tangible experiences and really getting in depth into some of those discussions and topics. So I think that is something that we're not doing as well as other systems, and I'm all about, if you see a great idea, let's borrow it, steal it, and make sure it works for what we need to do to teach our students. If something's got a good system, let's do that. I think that Anion really talks about in her textbook, and Darling Hammond's there too, that says we're really falling behind on our educational system, and I think a large part of that is that we've got these preconceived notions that education has to be tailored, or more to the point, not tailored, to minority individuals, those of a low socioeconomic class. We're predetermining where we think these individuals should end up, and we're saying this is where you should be, so therefore this is the class level teaching that you're going to get, and you're going to get teachers that aren't certified or have not done in-service training or learn how to do classroom management. So we're really struggling with giving teachers who are going to stay a long time versus that revolving door of teachers that they're here for a short time, they're gone, they burn out, they can't handle it, or they may have some experience or no experience directly related, but frankly they're willing to be a warm body in a cold classroom, so therefore they're going to get hired to teach the position. So one of the questions is, are those teachers that are being hired ones who lack credentials? Is that a cost savings? Is it that there are a lack of quality teachers? And I would argue that I think there is not a lack of quality teachers. There are lots of teacher education programs that are putting out quality teachers. They're just asking and getting those salaries that are commensurate with their experiences. So a low-income school is not going to be able to pay for that or wants to save the costs across the board. And I'm not even going to get into my personal experiences when I worked in Philadelphia, where Edison took over and privatized the public school system, and the first thing they did was eliminate most of the staff, and that just was a huge disservice. So one of the things that Fullen talked about in his book, which Darling Hammond really talks about that theme, is that opportunity for increasing school efficacy levels across the board when teachers come together in professional learning communities, learn with each other, and have mentors and mentees. And I think that that's something that's critical and something that is needed. When you get better teachers, you give them better pay, you have more allocation of equitable funding, that all makes for a difference in the quality of education. So I think that becomes something that needs to be addressed and taken on in terms of how to improve the American educational system. If there's better teachers, more allocated funding, not looking at the color of a student's skin and saying, well, you should be in this class, or not looking and saying, well, you did poorly on this test, because that's just one method of gauging student academic achievement. There are so many other things to be gauged out there than just did they answer the correct answer on a multiple choice quest. And I want to mention my experiences. I grew up in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, northeastern area. I grew up in farm country. We had high quality teachers. Most of my teachers, if not all of them, looked exactly like me. They were white, middle class, upper class individuals who were teaching, and the methods they used worked, inspired me to want to learn, got to know me over the course of the years that I was in school. So I think there's a big difference between my educational background and what's being taught today. I did have a couple opportunities. I went to college at Westchester University in Pennsylvania, predominantly white institution, graduate school at Rider University in New Jersey, again, predominantly white institution. I recall my freshman English teacher, Dr. Oberkaline Eshwa, was Nigerian, and he looked nothing like me, and I thought he was absolutely fantastic, and I signed up for his second semester course for Freshman Writing 201. I really had a great experience with that, and I walked by in the classroom, and he looked at me and he said, why are you back in my class? I said, I just enjoyed having you as an instructor. So I hit it off really well with him. I had also taken the summer before my senior year of high school and needed to get some advanced math classes, so I signed up for geometry at the inner city high school in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and that was the first time where I was surrounded in an educational environment, not as the majority. So it was a very interesting experience at a downtown high school, and I kind of reflect back on that now with those experiences. In terms of where we need to focus our energies, again, I'm going to summarize. We need to focus on better qualified teachers and higher requirements for those teachers. I think we need better retention plans for those teachers, making them want to stay, providing them support in order to stay, whether that's mentor programs, better allocation and more equitable allocation of resources across schools, not just those with affluent parents who are educated, who can argue on behalf of the students. We need to be equitable across the board. We need to focus also on, on class and race-based segregationist practices, and we need to focus more on inclusivity and cross-cultural learning opportunities. So I want to give that as a snapshot of my takeaway from the first two chapters. I welcome comments, and I thank you all for listening to me as long as you have. Thanks, and I'll see you all soon.